There has been quite a lot of controversy surrounding Eugenia over the past few weeks. A Reddit post has recently been circulating exposing her community on YouTube, Discord, and Twitch, stating that there were a few bad apples. Many people have been outraged with Eugenia due to the claims of her specifically knowing about this and trying to hide the truth.
I was not given any names. I was not given really any indication on who this person was.
Forget everything you thought you knew about the situation because the Reddit post is just the tip of the iceberg. There has been a lot of confusion among this entire situation, and it's time we sorted through this and find out the truth. I want to give a big thank you to Edwin, otherwise known as Homeboys Got Receipts, for getting me in touch with some of the people who were in contact with Eugenia, and a big thank you to those who were able to provide good insight on what has been going on. Without their help, I would not have half of the resources or information that is in this video. Also, thank you to everybody who has expressed concern in this situation. This is a very serious topic, and it's very important that we go through as much factual information as possible. Eugenia has been a well-known YouTuber, YouNow, and Twitch streamer for quite some time. Joining back in 2011 and having her oldest videos dating back to 2013 indicates that she has garnered quite a lot of attention for doing outfit reviews, having an alternative aesthetic, and, well, a visibly apparent mental health issue that millions have commented on. I will not be providing my thoughts about her condition in this video. That is something that I feel like I am not qualified for. I am not a doctor, I am not a health professional, and quite frankly, talking about that topic really is upsetting to my own mental health as well, so I hope you understand that, I hope you respect that. I will go on to say that in 2016, after Onision posted tons of videos attacking her for her condition, she gained a plethora of hate comment and viewers in addition to the already concerned and worried followers, causing her to go more viral than she already was.
For every one comment that maybe says, I want to look like Eugenia, which I don't see if people would want to do that anyway, but for whoever occasionally may comment that, there's actually 20 or so more comments just kind of telling me how gross I am and how I should myself.
Her redemption came in 2019 when Shane Dawson created a documentary series on her recovery, immediately shining a new positive spotlight on her, despite the fact that Shane was hiding a few shady details behind the scenes, such as previously making fun of her in other YouTube videos.
You don't know struggle till you've taken that picture standing next to Eugenia Cooney.
I don't know what that is or who that is.
I want to do a YouTuber costume. This is you.
He also became notorious for getting Katie Morton, a registered therapist, involved, making a vlog discussing how mean people like Jacqueline Glenn were to Eugenia, despite Katie being the one who encouraged Jacqueline Glenn to 5150 her. In other words, enforce Eugenia to get help as an emergency last resort. Neither Shane Dawson or Katie Morton seem to be saying or doing much in the public eye after all of this has happened. The concern for Eugenia did rise again, but it's been much more quiet than before. This was until recently, however, when Eugenia's community has been exposed for having multiple predatory members prey on her young and vulnerable fans. In July 2020, a post on Eugenia's Reddit was made, "Eugenia has skeletons of predators in her closet." I want to make it abundantly clear that this person has gone through a lot of trauma. This person is a victim of sexual harassment, and they are still very young. When I explain this information, I want you to keep that in mind as they are still in a very vulnerable state. Fan shares the details of how multiple predatory adults were lurking within Eugenia's Discord server and Twitch chats. They share how many people within Eugenia's community were violent, pro-Anna, predatory, and inappropriate with younger members of Eugenia's audience. Most importantly, a good portion of this Reddit post was spent claiming that Eugenia and her mods were aware of this happening, but Eugenia refrained from doing anything about it because these people were nice to her and they quote-unquote lined her pockets with bits. This portion of the Reddit post is what sparked the most outrage directly towards Eugenia. There is evidence that will be shown in this video to prove that there were in fact many predatory people within this community, but there is also evidence that indicated Eugenia most likely did not know about this like the claims have said. I will state, however, whether she knew or not, this is still a very serious situation and people were still affected by this. This post goes into detail about 3 alleged within Eugenia's community. The timeline of this situation can get confusing, so I'm going to do my best to break it down as simple as possible. The man who Fan refers to as Predator number 1 was known in Eugenia's community as Quim Laria. This is confirmed by another public post made by Fan, which we will come back to later. Quim Laria is now one of Eugenia's ex-moderators / ex-administrators who was banned due to being exposed over some very disturbing information. Quim Laria was exposed for being convicted of first-degree child, and there are records of this still online. This is not alleged, this is not speculation, this isn't me pulling a Sanders Kennedy telling you that someone's going to jail when they aren't. You can look this up for yourself online. There are still police records of this. There are screenshots of him mentioning being a felon in Eugenia's Discord, but there is no evidence pointing to him ever saying he went to jail over child molestation. Fan claims that Eugenia knew this man was a and was unwilling to ban him until she started being pressured. This was Eugenia's response to that.
When I first started Twitch, I didn't really know a lot of people I could moderate. I had like one person that was a friend of mine that was a moderator. There was a lot of people spamming my chat with really terrible, really racist, terrible messages, like crazy. So then I felt like very much like, okay, I need to add a couple more mods. I don't feel like that's fair to that one moderator. So I had like this one guy who actually did end up being sketchy, like really sketchy. Like he was telling me like, oh, I mod for other streamers. I know a lot about Twitch. Like I can be a mod for you, and seemed nice. So I did put him as a moderator, and he did mod for other streamers. Like he did mod for like other streamers and stuff. I would never falsely accuse somebody of like terrible things or like it being a pedophile or like terrible things like that. But like once people actually like showed what looked like proof that he was a pretty bad person, I literally removed him right away. That guy was removed forever ago. He was removed over 2 years ago. And these other people being mentioned in the video were never moderators to begin with. And now I definitely try to be a lot more careful, guys, with like moderators. Like I don't mod a lot of people at all anymore.
Fan also mentioned that a group of people formed on Twitter begging Eugenia to ban Quim Laria as a moderator. I wanted to see this for myself, so I did some digging on Twitter. I have failed to find a single tweet asking Eugenia to ban Quim Laria. I was able to find a few tweets of Quim Laria responding to Eugenia before this issue even began, and I was also able to find tweets of people being outraged by Eugenia's condition and begging Twitter and YouTube to ban her from those platforms. But again, I was unable to find anybody publicly asking Eugenia to ban this man from her community like this post had claimed. Now, this did all happen 2 years ago, so perhaps some of the accounts tweeting this have been deleted or resorted to directly DMing her, but when I picture someone saying it took a group of people to pressure Eugenia on Twitter, I expected to see at least 1 or 2 existing tweets, yet not one single tweet pops up. However, there were people asking her to ban him on Discord. Once Eugenia found the evidence of Quim Laria being a predator, she did ban him and asked other mods to unban anybody he or another mod named 120 banned for questioning him on her server. Guys, please do not ban anyone talking about the Quim Laria situation. After further looking into it, I have extreme evidence of him being a child molester, and I would have never modded him if I have known that. He's been trying to cover it up and ban anyone who mentions it, but at this point, I've seen enough proof, and where I take that really seriously, I can't have him as a mod. From what I've heard, some people were banned yesterday just for trying to bring it up, and if you guys could unban them, I'd appreciate it because I think this is something important that really did have to be brought to my attention. Hey, I'm super late to the whole Quim Laria thing, but I wanted to apologize because I knew about the whole pedo thing a couple days before it became public, and I still let it be handled in what may have been the worst possible way. I should have told you from the get, but mistakenly, I wanted to keep it away from you as much as possible because I didn't want it to interfere with the great time that you've been having. I admit that I f***ed up, and I take full responsibility for the way that it was handled. I am glad that it's over now though, and I earnestly hope that you're having a great day despite this bullshit. Hope to see you again soon. Take care. There have also been claims of Quim Laria modding for other streamers, not just Eugenia.
So I had like this one guy who actually did end up being sketchy, like really sketchy. Like he was telling me like, oh, I mod for other streamers. I know a lot about Twitch. Like I can be a mod for you, and he did mod for other streamers. Like he did mod for like other streamers and stuff.
That doesn't make this situation any better, but Eugenia's trust in this moderator stemmed from that. Lastly, before moving on to number 2, something that is very crucial to this entire segment is that Quim Laria is still active on Twitter. Sir, who let you back on the internet? Who said that you can come back after being a registered? This man should not be on the internet, and the fact that he is serves as a warning that just because he has been banned from Eugenia's community does not mean he can't be doing this to somebody else's community. Please stay aware and please stay mindful that you do not interact with this person. Predator number 2 is known as Matt Cardi 5. It was speculated that Matt Cardi 5 was a moderator for Eugenia's Discord, but this person was just a member within her community. He was not a moderator. He was, however, friends with another extremely problematic person, Eugenia Cooney, who we will get into later, but he was also not a moderator, and it's important to know that these are two completely different people. With that being said, Matt Cardi 5 was very with Fan as well as other minors within Eugenia's community. There are in fact screenshots of this taking place, backing up the claims on her Reddit post. After watching a follow-up video of this post where Fan further explains this, I can briefly summarize exactly what happened. According to Fan, she reached out to Matt Cardi 5 first, but made sure he knew that she was only 14 years old at the time. Matt Cardi 5 would constantly send inappropriate photos of things like to Fan, again, being aware that she was only 14 years old. He would send her photos of his and body fluids on paper towels, but when she threatened to call the police, he manipulated and threatened her. Fan had a friend who was also underage at the time and also a part of this Discord. Matt Cardi 5 was trying to convince Fan that her friend was actually an adult because he apparently had a deep-sounding voice. Matt Cardi 5 then decided to send Fan's friend a photo of Fan in a bikini without Fan's consent, as if it couldn't get any worse, under the assumption that her friend was in fact an adult. When Fan found out, she confronted Matt Cardi 5 and he tried to gaslight her and say, "It's just bikini pictures, it's not that bad." There are screenshots proving that this guy is a disgusting and monster. He was banned from Eugenia's community. This, however, is where things get a bit confusing. Fan claimed she told Eugenia that she was being stalked by someone in her community that, quote, her and the mods knew. This was important for later. This is Eugenia's response, again claiming she didn't know.
That's the thing, and it is not her fault. But I was not given any names. I was not given really any indication on who this person was whatsoever. So that's the thing. All I felt I could really do was tell her to go to an authority. Yeah, so the message that she sent me, just to be clear, was, "Hi Eugenia, I'm being stalked by a blackmailer. I have to ditch my old accounts, but I don't know what to do about my subscription, and it's gonna upset me that you're gonna forget me and forget who I was. I'm being stalked, Eugenia, and I don't know what to do. If I can watch you under fan cakes anymore, please don't forget me. I don't know what to do. It hurts so much. I love you. I gotta go into hiding." Which, of course, I feel terrible with that. But then that's why I told her, "Oh, don't worry. I'm so sorry to hear that, and I really hope things get better. Don't be afraid to report it to authorities if things get too serious. You're always so sweet, and I wouldn't ever forget you. Love you, and hang in there." I did not send that because I didn't care. It's like, no, I sent that because I didn't know who she was talking about. I was not given a name. I didn't know if it was somebody in real life. I didn't know what was going on. So the thing is, I sent her a message telling her to contact authorities if things were getting really serious or seemed really serious to her, because I'm not equipped to deal with that. Like, if somebody was a pedophile and stalking her and doing terrible things to her, which I think is horrible, I am not equipped to deal with that. I don't know what to do in that situation. That's why I would tell her, like I would tell anyone that I'm not even given a name. I would tell anybody in that situation to contact authorities because they might be able to help better than I can, because I don't always know what to do.
My original reaction to Eugenia's response to this was met with confusion due to her disagreeing with what had happened. The way it was also worded made it seem like the actions of all of these different creators were just one person. That makes it extremely confusing for the viewer. Yet here is the message Fan had sent to Eugenia. I will say this several times because I just want to make this clear. Whether Eugenia knew or not, this is still a very serious situation and it should be taken seriously. Now, I don't like this response. I think this is a huge mistake on Eugenia's behalf, and even she herself had apologized for it. I know that if I were reading the same exact message sent from a subscriber of mine, my first instinct would be to say, what can I do to help? Is this a person who is online or in your personal life? Let me help you find some resources, etc., etc. And if I knew that they were a minor, I'd do my best to find a way to reach out to their parents to ensure their safety. And before anybody says, would you really do that though, or are you just saying it? You're talking to somebody who's gotten the FBI involved in found online, so yes. I can't speak for others though. But this is supposed to be the biggest source of outrage against Eugenia, the claim that she knew that somebody within her community, who again was Matt Cardi 5, not Quim Laria, was stalking this girl. But this isn't just Eugenia's word against fans' word, this is also fans' word against fans' word. This post claims that she knew this but didn't do anything except say, go to the police if it gets worse. Eugenia claims that she had no idea who Fan was talking about, if this was somebody online or in real life, which, whether she should have asked questions or not, this conflicts against Fan's statement saying that Eugenia knew. Fan made it a point to state that she warned Eugenia and her mods about somebody being predatory and stalking her within her community, but then later went on to say that she didn't tell them specifically who it was, also saying,
people are hyperfixating on the fact that, I didn't explicitly say what was happening. And yeah, it's true. And I guess she didn't know Matt, but she knew Larry Appleton. At least at one time she did, and knew that he was problematic for harassing Ariel, not in a sexual way, but just attacking her.
Not only did she mention how she didn't tell them that it was somebody in Eugenia's community stalking her, despite previously stating that Eugenia and her mods knew, but now she is also saying that Eugenia didn't even know him as Matt Cardi 5, the user who was stalking her, and that Eugenia only knew him as Larry Appleton because he bullied people under that name. And considering he wasn't even heavily active within the community under the name Matt Cardi 5, he could have very well gone unnoticed for a long time. However, it is important to note that Fan, again, for one, is very traumatized by her experiences with Matt Cardi 5, and secondly, she again is very young. A person her age, especially one who is traumatized, is not always going to be equipped to explain things in a very clear and precise way. What this boils down to, in my opinion, is a failure in communication on both parties. I do think that Eugenia holds the higher end of the responsibility here because she is the adult in this situation. She didn't ask those questions, therefore she in fact did not know who Fan was talking about in the ways that many have claimed she had. Does that make anything any better? Not really, because there were still a lot of very young girls who were hurt by these people within her community, but what this does tell us is that this wasn't something that she was trying to sweep under the rug and pretend wasn't happening to obtain bits and money from these predators, but that shouldn't cloud the issue at hand, that this still went on. People were traumatized and hurt and victimized in this situation, and this is what I mean when I say that this entire story is extremely messy. Fan goes on to say that she did tell a moderator, but it happened to be Quim Laria, the convicted pedophile/predator number 1, as mentioned earlier. Quim Laria failed to report this to Eugenia or her mods and failed to ban this user. The screenshots, however, again, did not disclose the fact that this predator she was being stalked by was specifically someone from Eugenia's community. Again, these questions should have been asked by the adults that this girl was telling, and not to mention that this guy is already highly unfit to be a moderator for any Discord, Twitch, or online platform, but she once again did not provide any names or details to imply that this was somebody in Eugenia's community, at least not from the receipts that we have been provided. Secondly, she said mods, plural, in the Reddit post, but later confirms that she only told one mod, which unfortunately happened to be this conversation between her and Quim Laria. I'm trying my best not to be so harsh in this situation because there is a lot of proof that people in Eugenia's community were very predatory, and there is absolute proof that one of them was predatory towards Fan, making her a victim of sexual harassment and having her be traumatized. On top of that, she is again still a very young girl, and in a situation like this, one could definitely be clouded by a lot of emotional outrage. But by making so many contradicting statements as to whether Eugenia knew or not, you're hurting your own case with everything else. When you come public with something like this, you have to make sure that everything that you say is 100% accurate, not just because someone might be judging you about it or people will talk bad about it, but if you wanted to open this case up to a legal standpoint, they could easily look at this, say, this story is mixed up all over the place, and it would get thrown out, and this guy, Matt Cardi, could end up getting away with this, which is something that is extremely horrifying and should not happen. This man should be prosecuted. This man should be put in jail, just like the other mod was, and just like Quim Laria should be right now. He shouldn't be online. Lastly, I want to make it clear once again that Matt Cardi 5 was was banned after this incident. Now, the fact that there were even multiple predatory people within her community is quite alarming. I want to make that very clear. This is a big deal. Whether she was aware of it or not does not make it any better at the end of the day, because this is a still very serious and dangerous situation. The reason why I believe this is a reoccurring issue is not because Eugenia is some maniacal person trying to hold a pedo ring though, or even that she is somebody who thinks that the bits she receives is more important than the safety of her community. What I think it is the fact that being a visibly vulnerable person herself, she attracts other vulnerable young women. Many people who suffer from similar situations tend to be young girls in their teens. I think people who are predatory can spot this from a mile away, and they know that not only can they take advantage of an audience that is most likely filled with very young people, but they can also take advantage of them for being in an emotional or vulnerable point in their life. I think sometimes this can include people taking advantage of Eugenia herself, Quim Laria being an example of that. Xemzo was a very particular character compared to everybody else mentioned. He would send several concerning messages within the chat of Eugenia's Twitch and Discord. It's important to note that Xemzo was not a mod either, just an active member in the community. But the things that he has said would get so aggressive to the point that Fan has sent a public message to Eugenia on Twitch.
Maybe I'll give him all.
I if you know this, but Xemzo has threatened people violence new. Also, please seek treatment. You don't seem to be doing well, and I am concerned.
No offense to people in here, and honestly, like, I'm not really gonna give this like too much of a reaction or anything. But I just kind of think, like, you know, coming in my stream and just kind of like attacking a viewer of mine who I think is a really nice person, I just don't really think that's very nice to do that. And to that person, like, honestly, he's a great person. He's always been like very, very sweet on my stream. So I'm not trying to, you know, be mean to anybody here, but I kind of just think coming in just to say that is kind of like not very nice. And then also, you know, kind of like bringing that on to me and everything. It's like, the stream isn't really, no offense, like the stream isn't really about me like going to treatment or whatever. And like last year, you know, I was in treatment for a while and I've been doing like good and doing a lot better and stuff. So, I mean, yeah, you know, I just like don't really think that's very nice to like come into someone's stream and like try to do that.
Now, this clip is part of the confusion regarding everything else, because this is being taken as a response to the situation regarding Quim Laria and or Matt Cardi 5. There are a few things to note on here. The first is that Fan claims that this person was also and that she in fact did warn Eugenia about this, along with the accusations of him being aggressive. However, when we read the message, she leaves out the accusations. She did say that she brought this to the attention of the mods, and perhaps she may have brought this to Eugenia's attention privately beforehand. That's just me speculating, not fact. But what's important to note is that this does not match up with this. And I'm really not trying to nitpick or play devil's advocate here. I refilmed this video 3 times and re-scripted it 4 times. I was just as livid as everybody else who has already talked about this. In fact, I still am outraged, but now more so about the themselves. And it's really important to point out this confusion, because this is now the 3rd time that a claim in this post did not match up to the evidence that was presented. Considering Fan has made multiple videos on Eugenia before this Reddit thread was even posted, this makes me wonder if Eugenia has already had a bad experience, especially when you see Eugenia's face and tone change once she realizes who sent the bits. However, it's important to state that no matter who it is that is warning you about something like this, you should always take it seriously. Regardless of whether or not Eugenia was defensive due to who sent this message, you should always say something like, "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I will make sure this situation is looked into and handled," and then make sure you do look into the situation and handle it accordingly. Xemzo is also no longer active in Eugenia's Discord or Twitch. I also want to say that ever since this started being covered by commentary channels, there has been one person within her Discord making threats about some of those channels, but this person was not Xemzo. This man was a very disgusting person, not only being a but also being a Nazi. He is described as one of the worst predators within Eugenia's community, as he would constantly harass people with multiple accounts. Johnny was banned from the community before the Discord server was created though. He was also not a moderator for her Discord or her Twitch. Soon after his ban, he was arrested and sent to prison for the possession of CP. There were at least 2 people within Eugenia's community who were friends with Johnny that would also partake in the same bullying and harassment in the community that Johnny did. These 2 went by Superstar, spelled with a V, and Charles, who to my knowledge didn't sexually harass anybody, but did partake in creating alternative accounts to relentlessly bully people within Eugenia's community. I can do an entire video on just this group of people alone, but for right now, what's important to know is that these 2 were also not moderators, just aggressive trolls within the community. So to be clear, we can absolutely prove that there were multiple accounts of predatory behavior going on in Eugenia's community. We can prove that one of her moderators was a convicted pedophile. What we cannot prove at this time is if Eugenia did know about this before banning them. In fact, from all the evidence I have gathered, it appears that she was unaware of what these people were doing until right before they were banned. This, however, does not make the situation any less serious because her not knowing does not change the fact that people within her community were in danger of people like this. I don't think Eugenia is a bad person for all of this happening. I do think she should have asked questions when fan came to her with a vague message about being stalked, and I do think that she should have made a public statement warning her community about what was going on after she found out, or at least a statement pinned within her Discord where most of this was taking place. There have been a lot of opinions on what she should do moving forward from here. Some YouTubers have claimed that she should do background checks on all of her mods within her Discord and Twitch by taking photos of an ID and running it. But to have that done professionally can be very expensive, and I don't know about you, but if I was offered the opportunity to be a moderator for one of my favorite YouTubers, no matter who it was, I don't know if I would feel comfortable snapping a photo of my ID that not only has my name, but my address, my ID number, my height, weight, and birthday. That's a lot of personal information for what is essentially volunteer work. We've seen some big YouTubers abuse their power and dox or share personal information as well. Just take a look at Onision. Not to say that every YouTuber you mod for would be as bad as he is, but who's to say that somebody out there couldn't? In other words, it isn't completely realistic or safe for everybody involved. There aren't really any solid guidelines in place that could prevent the sharing of personal information like a business you work for could. What I think she should do is completely start over if she's willing to take the time to heavily monitor her community. If she chooses to do that, I think she should archive as much as she can of her old server, and perhaps any mods she still has can help. Then disband it and recreate it, but this time age restrict it so minors cannot join. This would decrease the activity within her Discord significantly, meaning it would be much easier to moderate. Lastly, I think she should make a statement before and after doing something like this to, one, warn her community of the predatory behaviors that have once happened, but also inform them that there are now new standards set in stone to prevent this from ever happening again. The last thing I want to say in regards to this is whether you are a viewer or a creator, please be mindful of who you interact with online. You never know who is truly on the other end of that screen. Please do not harass Fan, Eugenia, any of Eugenia's current mods, or anybody involved in the situation. What has happened with her community is very serious, and everybody involved is affected in one way or another. Also, there has been a lot of confusion about Eugenia's current mod. Some people are harassing the wrong moderators and making false allegations about them being present. Nobody should be making any unwarranted accusations like that without first having evidence. That is a very, very serious thing to accuse somebody of. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it if you've sat through this entire video. YouTube has been a little weird lately. I hope this video performs well because I worked my butt off on it. But once again, just in case it goes terribly, I would like to mention that I do have new merch that I have made if you want to help support the channel, as well as Patreon down below. But if you choose not to, that's entirely fine. You just being here and enjoying me talk about these things that are extremely horrible is enough. So, and let me know your thoughts on this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.